This is the Digital Savage Experience Podcast, hosted by Roman Prokopchuk, bringing you all things digital marketing, tech, business, and motivation. What's stopping you from becoming relentless in all aspects of life? Are you ready to become a digital savage? Let's get into today's episode.
Hey everyone, this is Roman Prokopchuk, and this is the Digital Savage Experience Podcast. Today I have with me Tom Bentey. He's the CEO of Suburbanite Productions. Thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thank you, Roman. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. So tell me a little bit about your journey. Where did you start and how did you get to where you are today?
Sure. So I graduated college from Rutgers in 2003 with the aspirations of getting into acting. So for a few years after that, I was involved in a lot of off-Broadway productions, theater productions, some independent films in New York City. And unfortunately, none of them really went anywhere. It was a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of broken promises. But I got some good acting experience, and I wanted to take more control over my career. So I became interested in learning how to actually produce, direct, and write a feature film. So I went to the New School in Manhattan in the West Village, and I received a master's degree in media studies and communication. And it was there at that program where I really learned how to write, direct, produce a film. And as a part of my thesis project, I did just that. And I also starred in a production called At the Jersey Shore. And that was really a successful independent film. It screened at national film festivals. It received a bunch of awards, and it got international distribution in 2012. So with that skill set and with that mindset, I knew that I wanted to be involved in production full time. So in about 2014, I started pitching local businesses and started to create marketing videos for them. And I started with small businesses, restaurants, doctors, lawyers, attorneys, things of that nature. And then slowly but surely the business really built. And I worked with a lot of big corporations, JCS Global Distribution, Chefs International, also Third Eye Gen, which is a tech company out of Princeton, colleges and universities. And that's where I'm at now. So I still do a lot of narrative productions, and I also do a lot of marketing, advertising, and branding videos as well.
That's awesome. And how did kind of acting prepare you to be on the other end kind of the camera? How did that help you to jump into that side of the business? Sure.
Well, I still act. I'm a proud member of SAG-AFTRA. But just being on set as an actor, you really get to see all aspects of production. You get to see really what goes into it. And you get to learn just basically the frequency of being on set and how everything kind of comes together. And as an actor, you're really just one part of that piece. And but you get to have access to all different parts of the puzzle and see how everything comes together.
That's great. And are there, like you mentioned, some companies, are there some companies you prefer to work with, not necessarily over others, but you feel like you have an expert level of experience?
Sure. The way that I view it is really that every company, every person has a story to tell. And it's a matter of really understanding that story and figuring out the best way to portray that story in the video. And really, when I sit down with a client, the first thing I do is understand what their brand values are, who they are as a corporation, what do they stand for, and how their product is going to benefit their consumer base. And then from there, it's really about just putting into practice, figuring out which ways from a creative standpoint that we can go about best showcasing this message, these brand values. In terms of companies that I prefer to work with, to me, it's really any company that has a progressive vision, that understands the value of portraying their corporation in a video is a company that I want to work with. If it's a company that just doesn't see or has a very kind of old-fashioned mindset in terms of marketing, advertising, and branding, then that's not somebody it's going to be a good fit. So any company that really understands what's going on in the digital world, that really understands how important in today's age, more than any other time in really history, the brand values are such a big part of the marketing and advertising initiatives, and really understands that your consumers are part of your message. Before, and this is I'm also an adjunct professor at Montclair State University. I teach transmedia projects, and we talk a lot about brand values and portraying a company and how it's changed in the last generations. And when I was growing up in the 80s, a company had a message and they put it out there into the world, and that was it. But now with the digital revolution, with the internet, with social media, you have to understand that your client base, your consumer base, they're part of your message. And if you understand that and you take that into account, that's going to be a huge benefit to you as a corporation. If you still have this old-fashioned traditional mindset that, hey, we're just going to kind of try to make a profit and we're going to portray our message to the consumer base and not take into account their needs or their input, then you're going to have a hard time in today's world. And I want to deal with companies that really understand the messaging aspect and understand how important it is to take into account how your customer base is perceiving you as a corporation.
I agree, and I think it's important. Video is important in 2019 going into 2020, and it's important to represent your brand and the brand values through all mediums, and then you'll be able to distribute accordingly. So obviously, if you have video, you can also have that as kind of, your core branded video at least, and then cut it up in terms of some stuff for paid social, YouTube advertising, and then obviously we're in a podcast now, so cutting audio from that video. So there's a lot of possibilities if you do film a video and have a, core, at least a core branding video or what you're about or your company is about, because brand is what's gonna, outlast now and in the future. Because if you do almost identical things or have an identical product than your competitors, that brand story is what's gonna set you apart.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So what motivates you to succeed?
What motivates me to succeed? Well, I love telling stories. I just enjoy every aspect of the production process, from pre-production to being on set to post-production. And I think all storytellers, the main goal is to make an impact, is to somehow influence an audience. And what I like to think that I'm doing is trying to do it in a positive way. And when you talk about like what companies you like to work with, well, it's companies that it's their messaging and their products and their services that I believe in. So when you have that passion going into any sort of video production job, it's really that kind of insight that you're trying to get across, and to make sure that your beliefs coincide with the people's beliefs that you're working with. So it motivates me is making an impact, is influencing people, is bettering people, educating people, and working with companies that you truly believe in to do that in a way that's productive for the individual and also for society.
Yeah, I think working with a brand, like you said, and being kind of an equal partner in a way, or treating it like their business is part of, you and what you're doing, and you have the same goals. It's very important, and having that kind of core establishment of what your goals are and what you're trying to give back, I think it keeps you from becoming complacent and still being passionate for that work.
Oh, for sure.
So what's one thing you may have seen as a weakness in yourself in the past that you've changed and now harness as a strength to benefit, your everyday life or your business?
Oh, that's a good question. A weakness in the past that is now a strength. Well, I think a lot of creatives, they have a hard time really staying focused. And I was always very driven and motivated, but a lot of times you just don't know like what to do with yourselves. And I see this a lot in a lot of people that are involved in acting and filmmaking. It's just like you have these great ideas and you have all these aspirations, but you really don't know how to focus it. And I think as I've gotten older, I really understand how to structure my time, organize my time, and to make the most out of it. And it's, when you're creative, you have all these ideas in your head and you want to do all these great things, but it's so important to just stay focused and to stay organized and to have one clear message and vision that you're trying to get across in whatever it is that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think organization is important, and also prioritizing. So something may be a passion project, but ultimately it may not get you closer to what your, current goals are, or your goals in the future. So kind of still working on it, but focusing on the important things first as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
So what's one piece of advice you may have for the audience, either personal or professional?
Piece of advice that I have for the audience. Well, it's funny when people ask me, what's some good advice that you've received along the way? I got to be honest, most of the advice that I've received has turned out to be completely false. I mean, all the projects that I was told that are going to really kind of blow up the entertainment industry and be tremendously successful, all the directors that I've been told that were super talented and just had that gift and that knack, or the actors that I were told that were going to be incredibly successful. It was all just hype. It was all smoke and mirrors. And as I've gotten older, I've become just more confident in myself and who I am and my vision. So my advice is to really not put too much credence in what other people are telling you, and just follow yourself and believe in yourself. I mean, that's the best advice I can give anyone, because all the advice that I've received and all the criticisms or all the critiques or all the kind of foreshadowing that I've received in my professional career, it all turned out to be complete nonsense. All these people that were so sure of their predictions, all their predictions turned out to be completely wrong. And it just made an impact on me that if I'm going to believe in anyone, I might as well believe in myself, because these people that are claiming to really know the future and to know what's going to be prominent and successful, if they're all wrong, why am I going to believe them? I should just believe in myself. So that's my advice, is just take into account everybody's advice and learn from your mistakes and learn from the critiques and to the experience that you're receiving from other individuals. But more importantly, see how that's going to benefit you. And you're the best gauge of what's going to be successful in your life. So more than anything, I would say just believe in yourself.
I agree. And I think advice in general, you should take with a grain of salt, because that advice is given from a different kind of situation or, different variables involved that may not necessarily apply to you one-on-one. So either struggles or positives or negatives, you may not be going through those or in that specific order. Some things that person may have had success in or went wrong aren't going to transpire in that same manner. So you have to, like I said, take it with a grain of salt and adapt as you go.
Definitely.
So I really appreciate you stopping by today. Can you let the audience know how they can find you?
Sure. I'm on all social media channels, Tom Bentey. You can check out my website, suburbaniteproductions.com, where I have a lot of my marketing, advertising, branding, video content on there. And you can check me out on YouTube. I have my own personal YouTube channel, Tom Bentey Media, where I host a lot of great video podcasts, including yourself, Roman. So check that out. And I also just started a web series called The American Benefactor. The American Benefactor is also on Tom Bentey Media YouTube channel. So please give it a watch. And if you like it, like the channel, like the video, and there's really a lot of great content on there. So thank you so much, Roman. I really appreciate this. And, I hope I provided some insight to your audience.
Awesome. Yeah, you definitely did. Thanks again for stopping by.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. Talk to you soon.
This podcast has been brought to you by Nova Zora Digital. Find out how Nova Zora Digital can help your company grow online. Learn more at novazoradigital.com. Until next time, all you digital savages.